One of the best tools for actually styling hair is the lattice. So what we can do actually, just before we apply the lattice, notice we have the big operator stack on our hair. So I'm just going to freeze that so we get a little more performance out of it. So with the hair selected, we can just apply the lattice. And this actually lets us do global changes quite quickly. So I can just select some points, scale them down, and you can see we can get overall editing quite easily. Let's go here. We can translate this up just a little bit to get some volume. If we want, we'll just scale the whole thing in a little bit to get it. The less volume, I guess. We got a little bit of an 80s look going on there, so we'll go something like that. And then periodically you can of course just select the hair and go into the hair menu and turn on render hairs. And actually it's probably a good idea. I'm going to set the hairs to black just so we get a better idea of how things look. And we'll bring up the render hair percentage a little bit. We can hide the lattice. There we go. It's getting there slowly. Let's just go back to our hair. One of the things you notice is the way it's interpolating is very evenly. So we did this nice clumping, but we're still getting this even interpolation. So if we want to actually just get it clumping a bit more, what we can do is select those strands and these guys here, and then just go to Interpolation Split. And what that does, it'll actually take the hairs, because basically the hairs that are in between these strands and the adjacent guides, it'll actually interpolate the render hairs evenly between them. And we don't want them. We want actually hairs closest to these strands are 100% weighted to that guide. And, basically that creates more of a clumpy look, which is what we want. So we can do that for a few other chunks over here. Let's say these guys over here. Go Interpolation Split as well. You can see we have a bit more of a chunky look on that guy. So you want to do that, here and there through your hair to create more of that sculpted, molded look. Another thing to mention at this time is the different modes we can edit the hair in. Actually, I can just freeze that guy, and then the lattice is actually inactive. What we can do is put the hair into Stretchy Mode. And this is actually a tool that was designed for actual animation purposes. And it was basically to overcome the IK fixed length limitation. Because as we had seen earlier, if we actually look at each guide, we've got this fixed segment length here, and it's acting like an IK chain. The problem with that is when we apply deformers and we try and sculpt the hair, it's like you've got a string, a linear fixed length that you're trying to move around, and it doesn't allow for any stretching or compressing. Because basically, when the hair ends up bending, what you'll get is this kind of thing where the IK is trying to solve, and you're going to get this kinking because the IK chain can't accommodate to fit that shape. So by going into Stretchy Mode, you can basically treat the guide hairs just like a linear curve. So you can actually go and move points, and it'll actually change the length of the hair. So you can see there, we're quickly changing the length of the hair. So what I like to do is go into Proportional Mode, and we can right-click on the Proportional button to get the editor open, and we can adjust the actual radius. So there you can see what we're doing. Something like this. And then you can see we can really kind of organically edit the hairs and sculpt the shape, and we're not too worried about the kinking and stuff because we're actually just stretching out the hairs freely, and there's no real concern about kinking and other problems you'll get. So let's just do a couple areas here. If we want to edit the hair on the top of the head here, let's just move that over there. actually, we want to make sure that's moving on all the axes. There we go. So one thing you got to be careful of, because the root point is constrained to the surface, what you want to make sure is when you have your proportional tool, you're not stretching out the root too much, because that creates that kind of linear effect. So whatever, we can just do some kind of free style editing. We're doing this kind of hero character, with a big hair. So it's not, it almost looks a bit girly, but that's okay. Let's move this in here. And this is actually the way I do a lot of the hairstyling, is just to go in at the end and like give it more of that organic look just by editing the hair this way. Something like that. I'm not crazy about this thing up here, so let's just push that in a little bit. Push that in over there. Okay, so we have something like that so far, and once we have that, what we want to do is just fix the hair, because now what we have is all these hairs that have different segment lengths, and that actually doesn't work well for animation, because you're going to end up getting some very linear chunks, and some segments are a lot smaller, so it can animate better. But what we want to do is have an even distribution of the points over the full length of the hair guide. So all we need to do is have the hair selected and do fix, and what it's doing is it's applying a resample operator, basically going through each guide hair and resampling it to interpolate. And there you go. You can see we've got the fixed length segments now, and the result is not much different visually, so that's not bad. So roughly that's kind of the style we were going for, this kind of organic, long-haired, messy look. What we can do is turn on the render hairs,